We like to think of ourselves as free to choose what we believe, what we buy, and who we become. Yet, this freedom is perhaps the most beautiful illusion ever created. From the moment we open our eyes to the world, invisible hands begin to shape us. The education system teaches us what to think, not how to think. Advertisements whisper what happiness should look like. Religion defines morality before we ever ask what good truly means. And by the time we reach adulthood, we are already molded, obedient, predictable, and unaware of how deeply the script has been written for us. Modern civilization hides its chains well. It does not command through force, it guides through desire. It does not silence through fear, it distracts through pleasure. In the ancient world, kings controlled through armies and fear of death. Today, control wears the mask of convenience. It is the algorithm recommending your next thought, the headline telling you who to hate, the cultural trend deciding what you must desire. Every click, every purchase, every belief is measured, predicted, and subtly directed toward one purpose: obedience disguised as choice. Carl Jung warned that the collective mind is far more powerful than the individual. He called it the collective persona, the mask a society wears to appear moral, stable, and unified. But beneath this mask lies something darker: conformity. The individual learns that acceptance requires imitation. To belong, you must silence the parts of yourself that question, rebel, or feel too deeply. Authenticity becomes dangerous, obedience becomes survival. And so we adapt. We trade our inner truth for the comfort of the herd, and we call it civilization. The tragedy is not that we are forced into these systems. It's that we learn to love them. We worship our captors in the form of brands, influencers, and institutions. We measure worth by approval and validation. We obey not because we must, but because it feels safe to be part of something larger, even if that something is built on illusion. Jung believed that when the individual submits entirely to collective identity, the psyche begins to fracture. The person loses contact with their soul, becoming a reflection of the crowd's expectations rather than their own potential. Look closely at the world around you. What we call education is often indoctrination. What we call democracy is often manipulation through carefully engineered emotions. What we call success is the pursuit of standards we never truly chose. The systems that claim to liberate us have quietly learned to enslave the human mind, not through chains of iron, but through the architecture of belief. And yet, this machinery continues because it operates invisibly. It thrives on our willingness to stay comfortable, distracted, and entertained. We laugh, we scroll, we consume, and never stop to ask who benefits from our blindness. Jung once said that people don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The first step toward freedom, then, is seeing the darkness that hides behind comfort. So the question remains, if everyone is conditioned to obey, who truly thinks for themselves? Freedom sounds beautiful, poetic even. It's the anthem of revolutions, the banner of nations, the dream sold to every child. Yet beneath the slogans and the songs lies an unsettling truth. Most people do not truly want freedom. They want safety. They want predictability. They want someone else to carry the unbearable weight of choice. Freedom, in its purest form, is terrifying. It demands responsibility. It demands awareness. It demands that we confront the chaos within ourselves, the contradictions, the suppressed emotions, the fragments of the psyche we spend our lives avoiding. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the dark half of human nature, buried beneath the polite mask of the ego. To face it is to risk madness. To ignore it is to live as a slave to unseen forces. And so, most people choose the comfort of dependence over the burden of consciousness. Dependence becomes a form of psychological anesthesia. It dulls the anxiety that comes from thinking for oneself. It provides structure, meaning, and belonging, even if that structure is a cage. Throughout history, entire civilizations have chosen servitude in exchange for certainty. When chaos threatens, people look for saviors. They hand over their will to kings, priests, or ideologies that promise order. The rise of totalitarian regimes in the 20th century was not merely political. It was psychological. Millions submitted to authority, not because they were forced, but because they were tired of the ambiguity that freedom brings. The dictator becomes the father figure, strict, decisive, and reassuringly absolute. The citizens regress into children, trading autonomy for the illusion of protection. Jung warned that such submission is the collective manifestation of the human shadow, the refusal to grow up spiritually and psychologically. But the pattern didn't end with history's tyrants. It simply evolved. In the modern world, dependence hides behind the mask of convenience. We depend on corporations to tell us what to buy, on media to tell us what to believe, on algorithms to tell us what to desire. We are comforted by the idea that someone or something knows what's best for us. Our thoughts are outsourced, our emotions commodified, our attention harvested, and we call it progress. This dependence feels voluntary, even pleasurable. The phone in your hand is not a weapon of oppression, it is a pacifier. Every notification is a hit of dopamine, a subtle reminder that you are still connected, still seen, still relevant. But in truth, it's a leash disguised as a lifeline. The more we depend, the less we think. The less we think, the easier we are to guide. Jung believed that modern society manufactures safe individuals, people who are intelligent enough to perform tasks but too afraid to question their purpose. Education teaches conformity disguised as creativity. Work promises stability at the cost of time and soul. Entertainment keeps the mind numb and distracted. And so, the system continues, not through oppression, but through voluntary participation. Dependence is seductive because it absolves us of blame. When life goes wrong, we can always point to the system, the boss, the government, the algorithm. But freedom leaves no one to blame. To be truly free is to stand alone, naked before the chaos of existence, responsible for one's own meaning. It is not the world we fear, it is ourselves. And that is the ultimate irony. The human soul longs for liberation, yet trembles before its own power. We worship freedom as an idea but reject it as a reality. Because to be free, one must face the shadow within, and most would rather remain comfortably enslaved than confront the darkness that comes with awakening. We live in a world obsessed with choice. Everywhere you look, life appears to offer endless possibilities. 1,000 products, countless lifestyles, infinite paths. You can choose what to wear, what to eat, what to believe. You can choose your political label, your digital tribe, your aesthetic, your opinion. It feels like freedom. But in truth, it's one of the most sophisticated illusions ever created. Because the very choices that make us feel autonomous are, in reality, designed, predicted, and controlled long before we even reach for them. The modern world doesn't suppress individuality, it manufactures it. Every purchase, every belief, every unique self-expression is the result of invisible psychological architecture, built to guide the human mind toward conformity through the appearance of difference. You are not told what to think, you are told what to feel. And your feelings, subtly shaped by media and market forces, guide your thoughts exactly where they're meant to go. Carl Jung warned of what he called mass-mindedness, a state where individuality dissolves into the collective unconscious of the crowd. In this state, people lose their inner compass, trading the struggle of thinking for the comfort of belonging. Once, this mass mind was built through religion or political propaganda. Today, it's coded into algorithms, engineered by behavioral data and digital attention economics. The algorithm knows you better than you know yourself. It doesn't need to manipulate you directly. It simply studies your patterns, what keeps you watching, what makes you angry, what breaks your focus, and then feeds you a reality tailored to your predictable reactions. You scroll not because you want to, but because your nervous system has been trained to crave the next hit of validation, outrage, or belonging. This is the new architecture of control. Not physical chains, but emotional triggers. Not authoritarian commands, but curated freedoms. The illusion is perfect because it gives you what you think you want. A voice, a platform, a choice. Yet, beneath this glittering autonomy lies a simple truth. Freedom that's been engineered is not freedom at all. Consider the influencer economy, a world where rebellion itself has become a market. The same system that once punished individuality now sells it back to you. Every trend, every counterculture, every aesthetic movement is quickly absorbed, branded, and monetized. Even resistance becomes a product. Be yourself, they say, but only within the boundaries of what can be sold. Our identities have become mirrors reflecting not who we are, but what we consume. The brands we wear, the causes we support, the language we use online, all carefully shaped by external validation loops. We post not to express truth, but to maintain belonging. The more connected we become, the less authentic we feel. This is the paradox of the modern age. The more freedom we are offered, the more deeply we sink into psychological dependence. Because as long as our sense of self depends on how others see us, we remain prisoners, not of tyrants, but of perception. And so, what we call individuality is often nothing more than mass-produced identity, a collection of programmed desires and digital masks designed to keep us predictable, profitable, and perfectly controlled. The greatest illusion of the 21st century isn't that we are enslaved. It's that we ever believed we were free. Every civilization tells itself a story of light triumphing over darkness, of progress conquering chaos. But beneath the surface of that story lies something older, darker, and infinitely more powerful: the human shadow. Jung believed that every individual and every society carries a hidden side, the repressed instincts, desires, and fears we refuse to acknowledge. Yet what we repress doesn't vanish. It waits, gathering strength in silence, until it returns to consume the very world that tried to bury it. We live in a time that glorifies comfort and convenience, yet secretly breeds anxiety and despair. We have traded struggle for safety, depth for distraction, meaning for pleasure. Our culture tells us that pain is toxic, that aggression is shameful, that self-reliance is outdated. We build soft lives inside hard systems, and wonder why we feel so hollow. We have exiled the darker half of the human soul, believing that by ignoring it, we have evolved beyond it. But evolution without integration is delusion. The shadow we refuse to face becomes the master we unconsciously serve. Jung warned that repression on a collective scale produces psychological weakness. When a society hides its instincts, it also hides its strength. What once made us adaptable, courageous, and self-determined is now considered dangerous. The individual who speaks with conviction is labeled arrogant. The person who embraces solitude is seen as antisocial. The one who questions authority is treated as a threat. Modern morality doesn't cultivate virtue, it manufactures obedience. Look back through history, and you'll see this pattern unfold again and again. The Roman Empire, once fierce, disciplined, and self-reliant, collapsed not from invasion, but from indulgence. Luxury replaced duty. Comfort replaced courage. Bread and circuses numbed a people once defined by resilience. The same decay echoes through our own age, hidden beneath digital noise and synthetic pleasure. We call it progress, but it feels more like paralysis. Our technology isolates us under the illusion of connection. Our comforts soothe us while stealing our vitality. We chase peace but run from the conflict within. Every scroll, every purchase, every distraction serves the same function: to silence the discomfort that might awaken us. We live anesthetized, medicated not only by drugs or screens, but by ideology, a belief that we can be good without confronting what is evil in ourselves. But repression is not purification. It is self-amputation. When we cut away our capacity for aggression, we also sever our capacity for strength. When we deny our pain, we lose our ability to endure. When we suppress our darkness, we extinguish the spark that gives light its meaning. Jung wrote that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. To integrate the shadow is to face the uncomfortable truth that within every human lies the potential for destruction and creation, cruelty and compassion, weakness and power. The person who knows this and accepts it stands grounded in reality. The person who denies it becomes fragile, dependent on external validation, incapable of standing alone. Our modern world is filled with fragile minds in powerful systems. People terrified of being offended, terrified of offending, terrified of silence, of meaninglessness, of the mirror. Because to look into that mirror, truly look, is to meet the part of ourselves society told us to hate. Yet that very part, the raw, untamed self, is where our strength was hidden all along. Civilizations don't decay because they become evil. They decay because they forget how to bear the weight of their own humanity. They lose touch with suffering, with limits, with death, and thus lose touch with life. Weakness isn't born. It's manufactured by repression, by comfort, by the illusion that goodness can exist without the courage to face what lies in the dark. And until we learn to confront that darkness, both within and around us, every light we build will flicker in the shadow it refuses to see. There comes a moment in every human life when the illusion begins to crack. When the world that once felt solid, the beliefs, the identities, the rules, suddenly feels hollow. When the quiet voice inside whispers, "None of this is truly mine." That moment is not madness. It is the beginning of awakening. Jung called this process individuation, the slow, painful, but necessary act of becoming who you truly are. For most of our lives, we live borrowed truths. We wear masks given to us by family, culture, religion, and ideology. We speak in voices not our own. We fight battles we were told to care about and chase goals that were never ours to begin with. And yet, something within us resists, a silent defiance against the great machinery of conformity. Individuation is the act of listening to that inner rebellion. It is not about rejecting society entirely, but about reclaiming the lost dialogue with the self. The privilege of a lifetime, Jung wrote, is to become who you truly are. But this privilege demands sacrifice, because to become yourself is to betray the version of you that others expect. It is to lose belonging, to stand alone, to confront every fear and insecurity that dependence once kept buried. Most people never dare to begin this journey. They would rather stay asleep within the comfort of their chains than wake up to the terror and freedom of consciousness. True rebellion, then, is not about slogans or revolutions. It is a war within the psyche, between the false self and the authentic one. The false self seeks approval, safety, and validation. It conforms to survive. The authentic self seeks truth, integrity, and wholeness, even if it means walking through the fire of solitude. The world rewards the former and punishes the latter. That is why individuation is the most dangerous act of all. History's greatest minds, the mystics, philosophers, and visionaries, all walked this lonely path. They withdrew from the noise to hear something deeper. Socrates defied Athens in pursuit of wisdom. Nietzsche tore apart the moral illusions of his age. Jung himself risked madness to explore the unconscious. Each of them understood that to think independently is to step outside the herd, and to step outside the herd is to risk being devoured by it. But to refuse that risk is to remain spiritually unborn. Because every time we obey without questioning, every time we suppress our instincts to fit in, we betray the deepest part of ourselves. The price of belonging is often the death of authenticity. And yet, authenticity is the only soil where freedom can grow. To individuate is to stop living reactively, to stop letting external forces dictate who we are. It is the moment when a person stops asking, "What will others think?" and begins asking, "What do I know to be true?" It is when morality shifts from obedience to conscience, and identity shifts from imitation to creation. The path is not easy. It requires descending into the depths of the unconscious, confronting the shadow, integrating the darkness you once feared. But on the other side of that descent lies clarity, a sense of inner unity no external system can control. The individual who has faced themselves cannot be manipulated, because they no longer seek from the world what they have already found within. Systems built on control fear such people. A society of individuated minds is uncontrollable, not through rebellion, but through understanding. You cannot enslave someone who has seen through the illusion of their chains. You cannot bribe someone whose happiness is self-made. You cannot deceive someone who has looked into their own shadow and survived it. This is why individuation is not merely self-development. It is a form of psychological revolution. It dismantles every structure that thrives on fear, conformity, and dependency. When one person awakens, it threatens the entire architecture of control because it reminds others that freedom was never out there, it was always within. The path to becoming yourself is the hardest road a human can walk, but it is also the most sacred, because once you begin, there is no going back. You cannot unsee the truth. You cannot unknow your power. You can only continue toward wholeness, toward authenticity, toward the terrifying beauty of becoming real. That is the rebellion the world fears most, the individual who is no longer hypnotized by it. Every awakening begins with loss. The moment you step beyond the illusions that bind the crowd, you begin to drift away from it. The conversations that once excited you now feel hollow. The ambitions that once defined you seem absurd. You start to see through the social theater, the masks, the performances, the fragile egos pretending to be whole. But this vision, this clarity, does not come without consequence. Because to see differently is to live differently. And to live differently is to be exiled from those who still sleep. Carl Jung understood this with painful clarity. He wrote that the individual who follows their own path inevitably feels isolated. It is the paradox of consciousness. The higher you rise in awareness, the fewer people can stand beside you. Society is built upon shared illusions. Those illusions create comfort, cohesion, and order. The moment you step outside them, you become a threat. History remembers such figures not for their comfort, but for their exile. Socrates was condemned for questioning the moral fabric of Athens, accused of corrupting the youth simply because he taught them to think. Nietzsche was ostracized, dismissed as mad, for dismantling the sacred idols of morality and religion. Even Christ, in his own way, was crucified for exposing the hypocrisy of the powerful. In every era, the awakening mind is treated as a contagion, a reminder of truths most people cannot bear to confront. This is the cost of freedom. To see the truth is to lose the comfort of belonging. The individuated person stands outside the herd not out of arrogance, but necessity. When you no longer believe what the collective believes, you can no longer live as the collective lives. You are forced to walk alone, into the wilderness of your own mind. And yet, it is in that wilderness that something extraordinary happens. Solitude, once feared, becomes sacred. It becomes the forge where thought sharpens into wisdom and identity crystallizes into strength. The silence of isolation allows you to hear what the noise of society drowned out. Your own conscience. What once felt like exile begins to feel like purification. Every great thinker has walked through this valley. The loneliness of truth is the crucible of understanding. When you are no longer sustained by the approval of others, you begin to draw strength from something deeper, integrity. You stop seeking mirrors to validate your existence and begin to see yourself as you are. You no longer need permission to think, to question, or to be. But this state demands courage. Because freedom, real freedom, is not a place of safety, it is a place of exposure. You must learn to carry the burden of your own mind without collapsing beneath its weight. You must learn to walk without the comforting illusion of certainty. Yet within this uncertainty lies the essence of maturity, the ability to stand firm in truth even when you stand alone. The world will call you cynical, detached, or strange. But these are merely the cries of those still dependent on the collective dream. For the awakened individual, solitude is not emptiness, it is clarity. It is where the self is reborn, stripped of illusion, grounded in reality. In the end, awakening is not a triumph over others, it is a quiet return to oneself. The price of that return is isolation. But the reward is something far greater. The unshakable peace of knowing that your freedom is no longer borrowed from the world, but rooted in the truth of who you are. In the end, the struggle was never truly between the individual and society. It has always been between consciousness and unconsciousness, between the mind that sees and the mind that obeys without knowing why. Every system of control, every ideology, every form of manipulation draws its power not from its creators, but from the human tendency to remain asleep. It is not chains that bind humanity, but blindness. Carl Jung understood this truth with unsettling precision. He did not tell us to destroy the collective, to abandon civilization, or to rebel blindly against authority. He told us to awaken within it, to see its games, its illusions, and its manipulations, and yet not be consumed by hatred for them, because what we hate still controls us. What we understand, we transcend. The machinery of society will always exist: hierarchies, ideologies, power struggles, and mass influence. But the awakened individual sees them not as prisons, but as mirrors. Every structure of control reflects a psychological truth within ourselves: our fear of uncertainty, our craving for approval, our longing for belonging. When we understand this, the battlefield shifts from the external world to the internal one. The real revolution begins not in the streets, but in the mind. Freedom, then, is not the absence of control. It is awareness of control. The conscious person moves through the world like a lucid dreamer, aware of the dream yet not lost in it. They play the roles that life demands: the worker, the friend, the lover, the citizen, but they do so knowingly without mistaking the mask for the face. They understand that power, in its essence, is neither good nor evil. It is a force, like fire. In the hands of the unconscious, it burns. In the hands of the conscious, it illuminates. This was Jung's quiet rebellion against the modern condition, the call not to escape the collective, but to meet it with consciousness. To live in a world filled with illusions, yet not be deceived by them. To participate in systems of power, yet not become their slave. To understand manipulation, yet not fall into cynicism. Because to awaken is not to reject the world, but to see it clearly and still choose to act with integrity. The conscious individual holds no hatred for the crowd, for they understand that every person still lost in unconscious living is not the enemy, but the mirror of what they once were. Compassion replaces judgment, and understanding replaces fear. And so, Jung's most haunting insight becomes his final gift. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This is not a warning, it is an invitation. To turn inward, to see what moves us beneath the surface. To recognize that true mastery is not the domination of others, but the integration of the self. The strong are not those who command armies, wealth, or influence, but those who have faced their own darkness and emerged whole. Power, once understood, ceases to enslave. Awareness, once awakened, cannot be reversed. And in that awareness lies the quiet, indestructible freedom of the human soul. A freedom that no system, no ideology, no empire can ever take away.